What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Talking Elite Fitness. Sean Woodland and Tommy Marquez here with you. Lauren Khalil's taking the evening off. It's late on the East Coast. She's
It is.
working hard. Tommy and I are recording at night here, and you're going to have to pardon us if we're a bit distracted. Game 6 of the World Series is on right now as we're recording this. It's in the bottom of the eighth, and the Yankees have 2 on with 1 out, and they're down by 1. So I'm
It
biting my nails a little bit here.
oh
End this
my god.
now. End
Yeah.
this now, Dodgers. We're officially on Baby Watch 2024. What's
Yep.
the latest, Tommy?
Well, tomorrow is the due date. We had the 40-week appointment today.
Okay.
Um, I think anyone who knows me and Tiff will not be surprised that it's most likely going to be late. So, uh, at,
Accurate.
le- at least that's where we're at right now, and everything's still looking good. Baby's healthy, mom's healthy. But it just where it's sitting high, it seems like there's no immediacy in it, which is on brand for both of us. And yeah, I'm thinking we're gonna have ourselves a November baby for sure.
Fantastic. Well, I hope everybody's doing well. I know you're prepared.
Yep.
We'll continue Baby Watch 2024 next week as we get ready for the Rogue Invitational. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. We are going to talk about some of the things that have been going on social media, some posts that have turned some heads and made a little news. Uh, and then we're going to also be speaking. Tommy and Lauren sat down earlier this week with the defending Rogue Invitational Strongman champion and friend of the show, Mitch Hooper. So looking forward to hearing that interview. Mitch is a great guy. We had a chance to actually just sit down with him informally in Wadapalooza, SoCal. He was at the same, I think like acai / smoothie place, and
Yeah.
invited us over to his table. We got to sit down. He's a great guy. So looking forward to hearing that conversation with him. But before we do that, want to thank our presenting sponsor for today. That is Thirdsy. If you guys want to improve your sleep and recovery, you want to check out Thirdsy. It has it's melatonin free, which is nice. So it's not habit forming.
Hmm.
It has GABA, L-theanine, magnesium, ingredients that are included to help calm your central nervous system and promote deep and restorative sleep. When you take this stuff, you're going to get to sleep faster. You're going to sleep better, and you're going to wake up feeling like you're ready to go. That's one of my big problems when I don't get enough sleep. But when I do wake up, I'm like, I don't want to get up. But with Thirdsy, I actually feel pretty energized. And my sleep is much more restorative than it is without Thirdsy. I actually experimented the other night, had a little adult beverage late at night. My wife and I were up doing stuff for my son's Halloween party that we were hosting here. So we were up,
Mm.
inflating balloons and doing all kinds of stuff, and decided I had a little wobbly pop, and I said, you know what, I'm going to forego the Thirdsy, and it made a difference. It made a big difference. So check out Thirdsy, Thirdsy.com. The code is TEF. You'll save 20%, and you will immediately A, thank us, and B, improve your sleep and your recovery. And Tommy, I know you got the Thirdsy packed in the emergency hospital baby bag.
It is. I got 3 of the to go packs that I'm going to bring with me because I know I'm most likely going to need it. Yeah, and let's just hope it gives me some better dreams than the ones I posted on social
That's
media.
hilarious. That was
Just
really good, by the way. That was well played. I felt bad for you, but I'm glad that you could have a little laugh at yourself,
yep,
at the expense of your favorite team, which they got to figure that out, man. What
they
is going
really do.
on in
Ugh,
Dallas? Come
the
on,
play
that team
calling's
is
just bad.
too good to be playing that way.
Oh, the play callings, they've leveraged all their money in certain places, and
Too much talent.
yeah, too much talent.
All
It,
right.
it, it honestly it hurts that if you looked at like realistically who are our 4 best players, 2
Mhm.
of them have been out for a significant time now
Yeah, what's
on
up
the
with Micah
defense.
Parsons? Now we're getting off on a tangent, but he got hurt, right?
High ankle
Oh, man.
sprain, man. It's like you never know, and especially for someone that lives on the edge like that. And then Demarcus Lawrence has been on the IR. He's our run stopper. He sets the
Mhm.
edge. He's been all pro multiple times. Yeah, just tough. So I knew what was coming Sunday. They gave me a little bit of hope.
Oh, I picked them. I thought they were gonna win. I'm like, this is
Yeah,
it. They're turning it around right here.
yeah,
But
brutal.
yeah, then they did the deal. That's how that turned out. But they came back in the end, kind of made it interesting there at the end. But
Yeah.
all right, let's get into our headlines. So first thing we talk about. This is a post that if you saw it, this is it. If you saw it, you may have went, what? This is from Jay Crouch, and it is a picture of Jay Crouch, Maddie Sturt, Tia Toomey, and Ricky Garrard. And all that Jay wrote as a caption is 2025, which led a lot of people to immediately start reacting. Oh my God, this team's going to win everything. Like that, all these people are going team. Well, it turns out that's not the case. It was just sort of speculation, but it was fun to talk about for a couple minutes.
It was, and I can confirm that they were just goofing. They were
Mm-hmm.
just kinda, yanking the chain, or I don't know, whatever kind of funny Aussie saying that they have, leashing the dog or something. I don't know. I feel like Jeremy Austin's probably got like 3 to 4 really funny sayings that
Yep.
are parallels to that. But I just really enjoyed the comments. Brandon
Oh,
Swan's
Brandon Swanson.
gif
Yeah.
of Grandpa Simpson,
Just the whole.
fantastic. Oh man, I mean, and I'm not gonna lie, that would be just a
Oh,
cracker of a team.
well, and here's the reason why. Now, this is before I talked to anybody or anything like that. Someone just sent this to me, and I saw it. And I was like, "Oh man, that's crazy." Is because at least for Tia Toomey, it makes sense. Now, this is the same thing that we saw Rich Froning do. I have nothing left to prove as an individual. I still want to compete. She's a mother now, allows her to not train as intensely and
Yeah,
still be able to compete at a high level. So to
yeah.
me, that kind of made sense for her.
Yeah, it was one of those things where you could kind of wrap your head around it a little bit for Tia,
Mhm.
but the canary in the coal mine for like this has to be a joke for me was Ricky. Just because,
Yeah.
obviously like Jay and Maddie, um, you know, have done tremendous work in the Australian community from the individual side of things. Obviously, Jay has been Jay has been on the team with Reebok CrossFit Frankston back in the day. That was Rob Forte's gym. Obviously, like they're in a relationship, so it would make sense that they could pick, this would be attractive to them. And the idea of maybe like winning a title would be
Mhm.
cool because both Jay and Maddie are both still very young and have some good individual years ahead of them, and Maddie just got back on the individual side to the games. But Ricky feels like there's unfinished business,
Oh, yeah. That was the one
and
that really shocked me. The other 3, I was like, "Okay, I can absolutely," like you said, I can see that.
yeah, and like it would be really cool to bring home a team title and
Mhm.
for that region in a scenario where it's not like it was at this year's games.
Correct. Yes. Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but yeah,
But anyway, that turned some heads, and it turned out to be a false alarm, but it was still
it,
something fun to talk about.
it was, it's like it it's like, yeah, it sucks when a kid pulls the fire alarm at school, but
Mhm.
you do get to see how some people react to a crisis.
That is true.
I feel like we saw some reactions like,
Yeah, they were good.
"Oh lord, we woke the mama." Like, okay,
Yeah,
but which was fun for a little bit.
that's a good analogy. Well, okay, the other thing we got going on right now, that was announced is that after the Rogue Invitational in Dubai, we sort of reset the season, with Wadapalooza and
Mhm.
in Miami Beach. And Wadapalooza put out, this video that we're watching right now, and the caption is, "After a legendary 12-year run in Bayfront Park, we're taking our talents," reference to LeBron, "to
Yeah,
South Beach to continue our celebration of fitness, community, and life. The iconic city of Miami Beach and its sandy beaches will serve as the new backdrop to your favorite fitness festival. We thank the Miami Beach administration for welcoming and supporting our 13th celebration and beyond. And we're just getting started as the online qualifier registration opens on Monday. So that's this coming Monday. We've got more big news coming soon.
yep.
Stay tuned." So, and you got a little actually insight from Dylan Malitsky on this.
Yeah, and, for one, they get credit for, the announcement, LeBron one, that was well played for their
Mhm.
social media crew, but, this is a development, that was actually pursued a little bit by Miami Beach, like, the city of Miami Beach courted them to potentially move over, and, um, I I will say this kind of we've made some parallels to another big event, the Ultra Miami Music Festival, which has been
Mhm.
in Bayfront Park for years. We drew parallels there with Wadapalooza and how that setup was and how they're able to manage the crowds. But Ultra did make a move out of Bayfront Park because they felt like they had kind of tapped out their potential at Bayfront. And I do kind of feel like that is a bit of the case for
Mhm.
Wodapalooza, at least for the time being. It felt like this is kind of I don't want to say a necessary move, but a move that is going to benefit the event. Just kind of like refreshing it a little bit.
Mhm.
It's you kind of tapped out in terms of like spectator experience. The seating has always been an issue with the amount of seating, the amount of visibility. What are you going to do with VIP? How do you make it better? Um, and are you sacrificing something for the spectacle a little bit? Now I think you get to hit a reset by moving to Miami Beach, and there are some advantages to it moving there. One being it's going to be literally on the beach, very similar to how Huntington Beach was for Waza SoCal, which I think could provide a really cool backdrop to that event, being an all day
Mhm.
type event.
Yeah.
Um, Miami Beach is much more walkable, and I think tourist, spectator, traveler friendly than downtown Miami is,
Yeah.
in that particular area, because once you get off of Bayfront Park and you're in the midst of the skyscrapers, kind of hectic. Usually, a lot of people who are in Airbnbs and everything like that have to stay a little bit further away, anyways. And parking around there can be a mess. It's not the most tourist friendly area. They're going to be there's going to be, and this is directly from them, just kind of talking to some of the folks at Wadapalooza. They're going to have more space for seating at every single stage, which is has been a
That's
huge,
yes.
yeah, that's been a really big issue for them and something they've been trying to address. It's going to be a little bit longer footprint,
Mhm.
um, which I think spreads things out, kind of sprawls out on some of those sections of Miami Beach, like you saw in that video, that are along the beach, so it kind of fits the natural curvature of that area. Um, yeah, I think that it being a place where Miami Beach wants them there and is willing to work with them, they can provide an experience where everything is a little bit more encased in that area of Miami Beach, so people can stay close by. They can train close by. They don't really have to like catch Ubers all over the place. Parking's not that big of an issue, and it's right next to Miami's Muscle Beach, where they're going to be.
Oh, cool.
Is like 6th and 10th. I want to say, yeah, 6th to 10th Street is right next to Miami Muscle Beach. So it's like the vibe is there too. And where they're at on Ocean Drive is like half of it has been blocked off. So it's just for pedestrians and biking.
Oh,
So you're
cool.
talking about like walkability and getting around, and just like the environment, like the atmosphere there for hosting an event seems like it's going to be an upgrade.
Yeah, my
Uh,
feeling always just have from having been there, and I haven't been there as many times as you have.
yeah,
But great event, great competition, fantastic environment, but I always felt like they were almost trying to do too much. Like they were sort of redlining that competition a little bit and a little bit beyond. And if they were going to stay at Bayfront, maybe the best move would be to contract a little bit so you didn't have the problems with seating and it didn't feel so crowded. But now it seems like this move is going to help alleviate some of that, which I think is good.
I
And it's
do
just
think,
nice to inject some new life into something with a new venue. Rogue has
yeah,
done this with going from Columbus, 3 years in Columbus, and then they do. I mean, they had the remote event, and then they did 3 years in Round Rock, and now they're going overseas. Like I think that feels like you need to refresh the venue a little bit every now and then. Although it's a little tougher because it's a Miami thing.
for sure. And sometimes you can be a victim of your own success, right? Like Wadapalooza really became, I would say, really it was the first really big spectator friendly or spectator oriented event for the off season
Hmm.
and high level competition. So, and what I say by that is like you had events like ECC, yeah, East Coast Championships,
Hmm.
which is no longer in operation. That was huge because you had a really dense format of like top athletes competing. Um, but it was in the Northeast, and it wasn't this huge sprawling spectator type event, community event. You had the OC Throwdown for a little while, which obviously had some very big issues with safety and some poor programming choices. And while it was starting to get bigger, I think they tried to do too much too fast in
Yeah.
getting bigger. I competed at that event one year, and I was there when, the Ogar accident happened. The Wadapalooza really developed as this community first oriented event. So it wasn't just about the elite competition. There were all these different divisions coming, and everyone was kind of celebrating fitness there to
Mhm.
take a term directly from them. And then the elite competition started to grow with it.
Yeah.
So you already had this like foundation of like Miami's a destination. People want to go there. You have all these divisions competing. There's really a place for everyone to compete. And once the elite divisions took off with like the teams of three, it it started to get attention of like, ooh, this is like this really kind of cool event. All right, how do we top next year? How do we make it bigger and better next year? How do we go more and really fit into this like Miami like glitz glam kind of atmosphere? And at some point, when you keep kind of pushing in that direction, you have to pull from others. And I think they, like you said, they were redlining.
Yeah.
And ultimately, some aspects of the spectator experience, some aspects of the athlete experience started to have some issues and some snags. And I hope that really moving to Miami Beach and maybe having a footprint that's doesn't require them to like set up these crazy scaffolding over a
Yeah.
fountain just to be able to get people in
Mhm.
allows them to put more creative energy and focus into other aspects that can kind of bring back to that community vibe. Um, which is great. And like Miami Beach is super cool. It's a destination. It's a place that a lot of people want to go to anyways. Um, yeah, it's in the same area enough so that there's some familiarity in terms of planning, but it's new enough to where it's like you're going to be staying in new places, you get the new experience, you get a new backdrop, a new scenery, and you're not going to the same restaurants and everything all just from the people that have been there multiple years. So yeah, I think this could be a big win for them, and something that's probably needed for sure, especially in this space with the temperature of things.
Mm.
Like
Agreed.
starting to refresh some stuff, I think is
Yeah.
helpful.
Score update. Top of the ninth. Dodgers still lead 7-6. They have two men on with one out. First and second. Who's up?
Is that Edmund up? Edmund's such a
I think
stud.
it's is that Freeman? I think oh, that is Evan. You're right.
That guy is
All
such
right.
a stud.
Just updating you on that. Okay. Next thing. Speaking of off-season competitions, Rogue Invitational obviously is less than a week away, uh, and it is likely that James Sprague, who's on the barbell spin, James Sprague has pneumonia. You
Yeah.
talked to him right about
Well,
this?
I reached out to him because I saw, obviously there was
Yeah.
some word getting around, and he posted some Instagram updates. I believe one from the hospital
Mhm.
involving some lungs, and he posted one in particular about like 4 out of 5 lobes are working, which is like anytime you see that from an elite athlete and they've got the oxygen tubes in their nose, you're like,
Yeah.
what the heck
That's
is
serious.
happening?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and rightfully so. He's taking some time off of social media. So it's hopefully he's good to go and it's just a hiccup at this point. Like Rogue competing at that event is secondary and making
Yeah.
sure your pneumonia is not something to be trifled with.
No, I had
Like,
unfortunately, I had an old guy, a college roommate of mine, a good friend of mine, passed away
yeah.
from that because and it was because of complications from it. So it's not yeah, you're right. It's not a joke.
For sure. And
Uh,
so obviously wishing him the best, man, and hopefully he's back in full swing soon.
yeah, because, I think that one thing everyone was looking forward to and still looking forward to the field that's gonna be competing there was but, defending CrossFit Games champion is now gonna be facing some guys that he did not face, uh, at the games, namely, guys like Jeff Adler.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and everybody kind of wanted to see how that was going to play out. Maybe we still might, but again, wishing James speedy recovery and health is the most important thing. Would love to see him compete if he's 100%. If not, definitely take it off and get healthy for next season. Um, okay, next thing, and we'll spend a little time on this one, but this was another social media post that turned a few heads, and it was a co-post between Will Morad and an entity that is calling itself the World Fitness Project. And all it is it's just a white logo on a black background, and the the caption is just an arrow with soon, and it is branded as a sports league. So this is not shocking to me that these things are starting to pop up right now. I think anybody who has any sort of aspirations of starting some sort of competitive functional fitness league is eyeing this time right now as the time to do it because of what's going on with CrossFit. We still do not have any sort of results or or any sense of what the direction is going to be in 2025 other than that there's going to be a season. But I don't. We're going to find out more. And we've reached out to Will Morad, who said he will say more at a later date.
Yep.
But I guarantee. I mean, I'm not going to say guarantee, but I think I can say with a pretty high degree of confidence, given the conversations I've been privy to and the people I've spoken to, that this is not the last one of these that's going to spring up here in the next few months.
Yeah, no, I think it's possible there might be a few darts thrown at the board to see what sticks,
Mhm.
um, which is probably needed at this point, right? Like if
Yeah.
you're trying to keep something like this alive, really like th- put out a few options and see if anyone really is able to kind of recreate some of the magic or put together a formula that really works. Because I mean, we still don't know what's going on with CrossFit.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going on with the investigation. We haven't heard anything back. No updates, despite reaching out. I mean, and let's be honest, even some aspects of the formal legal details, I'll say that, are still unknown. So, the full coroner's report has been withheld, right?
Mhm.
The full medical examiner's case for Lazar is still pending. So, no, it's not uncommon for them to do that, in the event of, legal proceedings and investigations being had. Um, but like there with so many question marks in the air, ultimately there are people that are going to be like, you know what, I'm just not waiting anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop being reactive and be proactive.
Mhm.
And if there is a realistic opportunity, and you could argue that there's never been a better time for something like this to pop up than now.
I'm just interested as to why. Like, so, does Will Morad have? I'm guessing he's got some kind of he's involved in this because he either has financial backing or he is close
Um,
tied
I
to it.
would,
Or
I,
is,
well, one, he's an athlete. He's a very intelligent athlete. I
yeah.
think he has been involved at a multitude of levels, and without trying to read the tea leaves a little bit. I mean, obviously, the people that were co-posted with that one was Ryan Husband, who is the founder of LRX, the apparel
Mhm.
company.
Okay.
And then there was another person who some people may not know, Jackson, who's involved. There are connections there that would be able to provide potential financial backing.
Okay.
I know that, in a very real way, with people that are passionate about this
Mhm.
sport and also passionate about just spreading fitness and health and wellness across the board. I've been fortunate to spend time with Jackson and his family in Kauai at the Ultimate Hawaiian Trail Run, where they've been big advocates. At least on the years that I've been there, for the Keala Foundation, for helping the kids and
Mhm.
everything that mission is for. And I know that life of service, if you put it that way, is probably the best way to put it. Um, is something that they're very focused on,
Yeah.
and so I think naturally for them, having connections to potentially provide funding would be important, and I think that's supremely beneficial.
Well, I think, and like I said, this ain't gonna be the last one of these that pops up. And I don't
Yeah,
know if that's a good or a bad thing. I mean, I think competition is ultimately a good thing. It makes everybody better and makes you make your product better. But I don't know if this. I don't know if the ecosystem can support two. I think it's got to be one. Like it's got everyone's. If there's going to be a competitor, everyone's got to rally around. Like because CrossFit's already there. Now you got, and we obviously don't even know what World Fitness Project is going to be.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but I think there's some other people. All right, Yankees on their last two outs. There's other people who are eyeing this, and the biggest. I think the biggest barrier to entry here is that you have got to find financial backing. Not only people with deep pockets, but people with deep pockets who are willing to wait this out because it's not
yeah,
like you're going to see a huge immediate return on whatever initial investment you're going to make. I mean, this is going to take some time, and it's pretty
yeah.
high risk as well. Um, so yeah, I don't know, but this is absolutely the time for people to do this. And like you said, I think you put it really well. People are not, they're done sort of reacting and now they're going to be proactive with this. And there's been, there were conversations about different season structures and ways to do things even before everything happened with the games.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it's just the ever changing landscape and ever changing season that is CrossFit. I think people were looking for ways to make it less virtual, more in person.
And some predictability in terms of like what the calendar looks like.
Mhm.
and what is going to be required of the athletes in order to compete at the highest level.
Right.
And that comes down to whether it's online, in person, how many stages, what's going to be the qualifying factors for each stage, all of that. And
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's been this constant like state of flux for the last what now it'll be almost 6 years. It's been 6 years.
And I think a larger conversation too, and I think we've touched on this before in the past, is the sport needs to decide what it's going to be. Is it going to be, a professional sport with professional athletes that you focus on, the best in the world, and that's who we're watching compete on a regular basis? Or is this going to continue to be a community event that tries to throw as wide a net as possible every year, starting with the Open, and try to be as inclusive as possible until ultimately get to semifinals and games? And I
Yeah.
don't know, it's like, I don't know if you can be in the middle anymore. It's like you're either gonna be something that's community based. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
Or you're gonna be, because the sport has just changed over the last 10 years.
Yeah, what I think if you're gonna try and be able to do a little bit of both, I just think you have to be very, very clear about where the dividing lines are.
Mhm.
And in the past, because the sport has constantly been in this, like as I mentioned, a state of flux or shifting. Oh,
Down to the
you might
last
be ahead of
out.
you're ahead of me. Yep, there we go.
Bueller,
Um,
Bueller,
Bueller, anyone who pitched what 2 games ago?
doesn't matter. He's
Winning pitcher with
supposed to close this thing out.
that. Yeah, he's a savage. I
Sorry.
think so. Get back to the point. I
Mm,
think because the sport was always shifting and growing and developing, you could afford to blur those lines a little bit,
mhm,
right? Um, you could pump the open, maybe be like, we're trying to get some quarterfinals and more people involved,
mhm,
semifinals, or even like, even if it goes the other direction when they made it harder to get to semifinals, or which were formerly regionals, that was the case, and it was going both directions. But I think really what people just want now is really clear communication, really clear guidelines around what is going to be expected. Hey, what is the focus here? And the open, yeah, if they're going to do something like an open, yeah, anyone can participate, but this is going to be your only chance. And after that, it is cutthroat, and we are getting to the elite
yeah.
stuff, and that's going to be the highlight.
Tyler Watkins made a really good point about this, and he said something that when I thought about it, I'm like, that's exactly right. Like, if you think back 10, 12, 11 years ago, there were all of us all Dodgers win, Dodgers win, Dodgers win, Dodgers are the World Series champions. Finally did it in a 162 game season.
Let me be the first to congratulate you, Sean, as a Los Angeles Dodgers fan for the World Series,
There we
taking
go.
down the evil empire of the Yankees.
Yeah, one evil
Sorry,
empire
everyone in New
every other
York.
evil empire. I don't care, man. That's awesome. All right. Anyway, Tyler said, you think back 10, 11 years ago, and we all thought, I could be that guy. I could be that, I could be in the games maybe. There was this sense that we were all kind of coming from the same pool, you know. Now, whether that was delusional or not, which it
Yeah.
probably was delusional, there was still that feel that this was all like all of us were in this together. We all had a chance. That is far from the case now. And I think
Yeah.
that's where we're at. It's like the sport has just changed so much that those old days of, you know, we're all on the starting line, while you can do the open, you can say that. No one really believes that anymore.
Yeah, and to take that a step further, I think that belief, like, hey, that I maybe can make it, probably went out with the um, I would say it's even further. I would say it was more maybe like 2010, 2011, and parts of 2012. But by the time 2012 came along and you saw what was required, the 2012 games particularly,
Yeah.
I think that idea started to float out the window, and there was a focus shift. It went from, "Oh, maybe that could be me." It was, "All right, let me go to regionals. Maybe
Yes.
that could be me."
Yeah. Yeah.
That or
Exactly.
okay, now let me go to teams at regionals. Maybe that could be me. Okay, maybe just an elite division at a local event. That
Yeah.
could be me.
Yeah.
Like it's this, and because realistically, by 2015, very few people that weren't already like decent multi-year regional
Mhm.
athletes were thinking like, I can go there, unless
Yeah.
it was someone that was coming from an extensive sport background and maybe had some belief in their art and in some genetic potential that they already had. But
Yeah.
yeah,
And even the guys this year who were rookies, and I think like Austin Hatfield was one, and Jack Rosema, those guys. Like you said, they had been around forever. It wasn't like they just came out of nowhere and made the games
Mhm.
like you would see back then. But
Yeah.
I think like it's just let's decide what we're doing here. And I think there is a spot. I think there is a place for, and maybe this is where CrossFit nets out. If some other competitor, and this is way down the road here, there's a lot that needs to be figured out. But if some other competitor kind of league kind of figures out how to do this thing for the elite, I think there is a spot for doing like a mass participation event like the Open and maybe some stages beyond that could be purely online, and it's just a totally community driven event. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I think people would actually like that. Like we've talked about before, I like the 5 week Open. It felt like that was my competition. Like this is
Yeah.
the only, and 3 weeks for me, it's like it's over. It's not much to kind of savor and get ready for. And like after week 4, you're like, oh man, I don't know if there's that cool feeling of I've kind of put myself through the ringer these past 3 weeks, repeating all these workouts. I don't know if I can get up for it, and then you do like that. There was like a win in that, and I
Yeah.
missed that 5 week Open. So maybe I don't know. I think there are ways where both can survive. I just don't think they can be the same thing
Hmm.
anymore. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong,
Yeah.
but these what like we started the conversation. World Fitness Project is a sports league.
At least that's what it's listed at
That's what
on
it's listed
IG.
as. Hopefully, we'll get more details on that in the coming weeks. And I know there are others out there that are conversations have been had. Like they've gone to beyond just conversation. So uh, that's what we know. But it'll be interesting to keep an eye on as CrossFit tries to figure itself out here over the next month because we're approaching. Would it be like December is when we would usually get a rule book and we would start to get open dates.
Yep. Open dates usually come around Thanksgiving, maybe a little bit
Oh yeah,
before.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's gonna be
There'd
here
be
before we
announcements.
know it.
Yeah, there'd be announcements about that. Yeah, and we're still getting drug test updates from games results right now. I don't think we talk we didn't we missed a few of them from
Yeah,
last
we
week.
did. So there was Edel of he was the 40 to 44-year-old competitor.
Yep.
And that was one where
He was
I'm
the
a
champion. He won the
yeah,
40
and
40.
I'm a big believer in you know, innocent until proven guilty. But that was a guy who you looked at and you're like, man, this dude is a beast. And so
Well,
when I read that, when I heard, read about it, I was like, oh, that doesn't unfortunately shock me.
yeah, he didn't appeal, received the 4-year sanction. I mean,
Yeah.
he had when I always miss this one, an anastrozole, some exogenous steroids and metabolites of GW1 of Endurobol. So it was like there was multiple things, and a few of them that you don't just ingest by happenstance.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, so there was that one, and there was the other one, and you brought up some interesting points about this. Yeah, it was Sean Ramirez, who
yeah,
has already served a 4-year suspension, came back, and then tested positive again for the same thing, correct?
I thought it was. I
Stop
thought
it. Okay.
because there was some confusion around some stuff that had been announced and pushed on articles and things like that, and had to be clarified with like, "Hey, this is from 2018." But initially, some I saw some people spouting like, "Oh, it's the same thing that he got tested for in the past," which brings in mind a famous case with the UFC, John Jones in particular. There's a great episode on it from Jeff Nowitzki, who's known as the Golden Snitch from the UFC, who did a lot of
Mhm,
work with helping clean up the sport during a point in time where pretty much all the top athletes were dirty and they were trying to clean it up, and you were having just these monsters.
mhm,
Um, Talking about the way that, and I always botch the name of it, but a way that someone can test for this positive for the same uh, substance twice,
mhm,
despite not ingesting it more than once, or whatever the original thing they popped for. So there are certain compounds that somehow get stored in fat cells. I don't know if that means they're soluble or not, but essentially, is some of it gets stored in fat cells, and at any time there is increases or decreases in weight and
mhm,
drastic form, similar to like what UFC fighters do for cutting weight, or what can happen when athletes get into really heavy training sessions or training cycles for
mhm,
peaks and valleys in a sport where those exist. Traces of the compound that or the banned substance that have been stored in fat cells for a long time, that suddenly get that fat gets metabolized, can
mhm,
re-release that, and you can test positive for it again. I can't remember the exact name of what he called it, um, but almost like this fluttering of it,
mhm,
and it's possible that you have like a double jeopardy scenario, right?
mhm,
Where you basically take a substance, you test positive, you get banned, You sit on the couch for a little while, it gets stored. You decide fulfill your ban. You come back, you start training again. That stuff gets metabolized, or the fat gets burned, and you retest positive for it again. So that was ultimately with John Jones's case
Mhm.
that happened with him, where he tested
Did he
positive
prove it?
again. I believe they did.
Okay.
And that was one of the main things. I mean, obviously at the time, John had a few other things that he was dealing with, as you would call off the field issues. Um, but yeah, but all that to say, that's something that is very real
Yeah.
for some people. It was not the case for Sean. It was a different
Okay.
substance. So
That's just too bad, man. Like at this point, and I'm sorry. I
he's
think
appealing. So
he is. Well, I mean, okay.
it would have to be at this point, any appeal would have to be a tainted supplement
Right,
that you
which
could
you have
reasonably
to prove.
prove.
Yeah, which is, to the best of my knowledge, only one person's been able to do that successfully. And
Uh,
still, and that was, the Richard
there,
Bolton, he still got
there's
banned.
there's been a few that
That
have since
happened?
been
Okay.
able to,
That's
yeah.
the one that I always remember because he was the first and it was a well documented case. Oh, that's right, because there was a couple, uh, I'm forgetting her name.
Kelly Holm did one. Kelly Holm was able to. Laurie Kuna was able
That's
to.
it. That's her. Yeah.
Um, I'm going through. Let's see, and none of the current athletes, I don't think.
Anyway, look, I'm just if you I'm the big, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, we can't get fooled again, guy.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you, W, for
yeah,
that one. Oh,
really, like you only get one second chance.
yep,
And I've had, Sean's always been nice to me. I
yep,
had
same.
great interaction with him at the games, but this is now twice. So is it another 4-year ban with and then you
It's
or
potentially more. It
is
could
it
be lifetime.
I honestly think it should be more. You only get one second chance, you know,
Yep.
because you serve your time, all right, clean slate, forgive, don't forget. And yeah, it's just especially because there are a lot of masters athletes who are doing this the right way. And there were in like in Edel's case, kept someone off the podium,
Yeah. Same
kept
with
someone
same
from
with
winning,
Sean.
you
Both
know?
of them kept
Yeah.
someone off the podium.
So
Ivan Kukartsev had his sanction down to a 2 year, so that's from semifinals this year, which typically they only reduce that due to a tainted supplement. So,
those are the two that we needed out there. I'm glad you brought that up.
yep.